Thank you for the opportunity to speak at the Assembly this morning. Well, although the pandemic has certainly meant troubled times for the aviation industry, I'm pleased to say that Logan Air's environmental commitments are still moving forward apace. In our case, we'll be replacing older aircraft with newer, much more carbon efficient aircraft, and that'll further widen the gap between aviation as a means of travel to and from the Scottish Islands and the maritime industry, where emissions still remain very heavily unchecked. So from that perspective, we're pleased to be able to be further improving our performance, and I'm delighted to see as well that during the course of this year we'll be doing flight testing with not one but two future flight projects, a hydrogen powered project and an electrical battery powered project, to be able to bring regional air connectivity with absolute zero emissions throughout Scotland. We're confident that with these programmes we'll not only be able to exceed the Scottish Government's targets to achieve net zero on aviation within Scotland, we'll be able to move to absolute zero on the basis of the work that is ongoing. You'll hear more about that this morning. Thank you for your time and thank you for listening.
Thank you, Jonathan, and hello. My name is Andy Smith. I'm the Head of Sustainability Strategy at Logan Air, and it's a pleasure to be here today to have the opportunity to talk to you about Logan Air's decarbonisation strategy and how we intend to meet the Scottish Government's target of net zero by 2045. Before I talk a bit about the technologies that we've been assessing over the last year, I'd like to make a point about the difference between domestic air travel within Scotland and other parts of the UK. The majority of Logan Air's domestic network involves travel over water, quite unlike other parts of the UK. We connect island communities with neighbouring islands, but also the mainland. And these vital air links are an essential part of community and island life. Whereas in the southern parts of the UK, it would be unusual to take a flight in order to make a routine hospital appointment. In the Highlands and Islands, this is quite routine. And the options of motorways and extensive rail networks simply don't exist, meaning that few low carbon alternatives to air travel are available to our customers in these communities. Nonetheless, we're quite clear that we must decarbonise our operations, and over the last year we've seen a number of emerging technologies come to a point of maturity that gives us significant confidence that they will be practical solutions to the carbon challenge for aviation. Over the course of next year, we'll be running further tests on a battery electric solution, which will be potentially applicable to the smallest aircraft in our fleet, the Islander. But the potential to avoid using carbon-based fuels and recharge using clean power from the grid is very attractive. The first aircraft of this type is being developed by Cranfield Aerospace, and we hope to be able to put this into service in late 2022 or early 2023, replacing our fossil-fueled aircraft based in Kirkwall on the inter-island services in Orkney. In parallel to this, we're assessing hydrogen as a potential fuel source, which has significant potential to fuel larger aircraft, including the majority of Logan Air's fleet. Hydrogen can be produced cleanly from the electrolysis of water using renewable power, and when it's consumed on board the aircraft, the only emissions are water. Hydrogen fuel cells have been flown for the first time in an aircraft earlier this year, and we work closely with the technology provider there to assess its use for Scotland, and we will be testing its suitability over the course of this coming summer. Now, battery electric and hydrogen propulsion systems are several years away from being commercially deployed, and in the meantime we're looking at biofuels as an option to reduce our carbon emissions. A 50-50 mix of SAF and conventional jet fuel can reduce carbon emissions by up to 40%. However, the fuel is expensive, but we will be trialling its use over the course of this summer and working with Scottish Government to see whether there's opportunities to deploy it without excessively increasing the seat costs for passengers. As these technologies, the hydrogen and the battery electric solutions, come to market, we'll be looking at offsetting as a short-term measure which can significantly boost the natural biodiversity of Scotland and help us offset our carbon. We don't see offsetting as a long-term solution, but it is something that we are able to do in the here and now as the emerging technologies come to fruition. Therefore, our answer to the question that's been posed is that We are confident that on the supply side, we are able to decarbonise our operations in the timescales set by the Scottish Government. And we've been very encouraged by the support from both the Scottish and the UK governments for R&D work in aviation. These positive developments are showing fruition, and as this technology is adopted and applied within our domestic network, we will also be looking for Scottish and UK government support so that the increased costs of this technology, as we transition from a low carbon to a sustainable future, mean that fares and seat prices to our communities remain accessible.